Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 45, another 7 curious interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on as ever. So the first example is something I saw on Nathan Shipley's Twitter feed, and it's a really interesting example of what's called style transfer. So this is a generative AI thing. You might have heard of things like TensorFlow or GANs, generative adversarial networks, those sorts of things, or pix-to-pix. But essentially all those things allow you to transfer one style from one thing to another. So as you're seeing in the top left corner, you're seeing an artist has donated essentially a video of them sketching, and it's automatically trying to create a human face based on the sketches. So that's mad. And then unfortunately I'm sat probably right in the corner of Dash's face right now, but the other ones are a slightly different technique, and it's using Incredibles reference. So this is not official Pixar stuff, but it uses a technique where you take a Pixar face, you then look for a human face similar to that in the Flickr library. So there's like a public library you're allowed to use any face from, and it finds that, and then it just does the style transfer, finds the middle ground where it's transferred just enough cartoon to the human and vice versa. Unfortunately I'm sat right in front of the other Dash, there's one step further you can go as well, and it just looks like a normal kid that looks like Dash. It's absolutely phenomenal. So definitely go and check that out. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Disney Research Lab do a lot of curious experiments, and this one is all about human interaction with robots and trying to create essentially a human gaze that is engaging. So using their knowledge, I guess, from things like CG animation, where they know what the eyes need to do, that little flickering that you get that just looks human. So this uses a sensor. It knows when you walk in front of it. It senses your face as well, so it can react to your face. If you move from left to right, it will follow you. For instance, if you speak and somebody else doesn't, it will move to you. So it's just trying to get that interaction as natural as possible. There's a thing in animation called the uncanny valley. So if it's a pure cartoon like Cartoon Network, you don't bat an eyelid at it. If it's a live action humans, you don't bat an eyelid at it. There's somewhere in between that it just goes a little bit weird, and it's called the uncanny valley because it's easy to fall into and very difficult to get out. This is the first time I've seen a robot, and I'm imagining it with skin on, obviously, but it's the first time I've really seen a robot that is just starting to get the eyes that look kind of not dead. So this might be useful for things like service robots, so hotel receptionists, or it could even be a newscaster of the future, who knows, or a companion for the elderly, those sorts of things. So yeah, interesting. WhatsApp. Now WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and as you might have noticed, Facebook like to earn money. And you might have also noticed that there has been not many ads on WhatsApp. You probably haven't seen any. That's because there aren't any. There has been Facebook for Business for a while, but it's been relatively quiet and low table stakes as far as Facebook are concerned. However, they've just basically announced that they are now going to make WhatsApp sing for its supper. It now needs to make some money. So they've announced this kind of business integration where you can have a chat with the business can have a direct chat with you. They can offer products if you like the products through chat, all through the chat interface. You can then pay for it and it will be delivered because it goes through the shoppable part of the store. So it's not really clear exactly how these are instigated, whether they're listening to you all the time or whether you need to instigate it with a bot that you've already added. Not really sure. If that's slightly creepy, because obviously Facebook do track you, that's their business model, they know what you want, and you are essentially a trackable audience person for them. There are alternatives like Signal, for instance. So we might be seeing this kind of, now they're going to try and commercialize it, it might be seeing a move to Signal. I certainly have, so we'll see where this goes. Metasurface is a word I never thought I'd be researching this week, but they're really interesting. So lots of words like nano and quantum and all the micro surfaces. So a metasurface is a microscopically engineered surface that can affect things in different ways on a quantum level almost. So this one affects light. Now what is this? This is a display, so a screen essentially. So you've got the screen, if you're looking at this on a monitor or a laptop, you're probably looking at anywhere between 72 and 200 pixels per inch on that screen. If you're on a phone, you're probably looking at 400 to 500, that sort of thing. So a retina screen, you know, it was like you can't see the gaps. It's because there's so many pixels. This one can actually do 10,000 pixels per inch, and it can theoretically go up to about 30,000 as well. So it does it by affecting the wavelength of light. So the little pegs that you can see are spaced just about a wavelength of light apart. Some of them are slightly more, some are slightly less. So if it hits kind of a chunky pin that's quite close together, it'll shift it towards the red light, and if it's slightly thinner, then it'll shift it towards the blue light. So if you shine white light onto different pegs, it will reflect back different colors, red, green or blue. So using this kind of microscopic printing technique, they can actually get essentially sub-pixels within pixels. So all of a sudden you're not really reliant on the pixel size, because you can actually print some sort of micro pillars underneath each pixel. Probably absolutely mothering the description of this, and I do apologize if you are in any way a quantum scientist, but it's really interesting for things like VR. So the VR headsets have a lens right in front, or a screen right in front of your eyes, and you can tell the pixels on them. They're quite obvious, and they lead to it not being a realistic experience. So if you can now get 10,000 pixels per inch, those will all of a sudden seem far more realistic. So yeah, probably coming to a VR headset near you. Apple iPhone 12 was released a couple of weeks ago. Lots of great stuff about the iPhone 12, obviously, and now there's some dark stuff coming out as well. So this is a video from iFixit, who are big proponents of the right to repair movement. So you have the right to repair something that you own. The car that you own, might own, you can change the tyres. The bicycle, you can change your chain. If you have a watch, of course you can change the watch strap. Of course you can. However, electronics is in a weird place right now, where people like Apple have now made a very big play to the fact that no, you can't change things like the screen or the camera in the iPhone 12. So what iFixit have found out is that if you try and swap screens or try and swap cameras from phone to phone, they'll sort of work, but not really. What you actually need to do is you need to be an Apple technician to connect to a cloud-based authorized Apple service to then recalibrate the phone or reconnect the phone or essentially set up the camera again. So, so that's bad news for you and I, which basically means if we drop our phone and we crack the screen or whatever we do, we have to take it to Apple now. We cannot take it to a repairer, or we can't fix it ourselves. So yeah, so this is on a really interesting crash course with European Union, who are behind the right to repair, but Apple have made a very big stance here. There's no need to make your screen or your camera need to be connected to an online service to repair it, yet they have. So again, you know, as ever, watch that space. It's very curious and a little bit dark. It's a trend we don't really want to go anywhere further down. Shopify keep popping up all over the place. Last week it was with YouTube, and now it's with TikTok. So all they've really done here is they've done a deal with TikTok to simplify TikTok ads within Shopify. So if you're not sure what Shopify is, it's an e-commerce platform. You can either have your .com website, for instance, and the shop that you see is probably powered by Shopify. And they also do things like WordPress, Shopify plugins, those sorts of things. So it's basically, if you wanted to have a shop, Shopify is a good place to go. TikTok obviously want to get a part of the action as well, but they have their own commercial platform on TikTok, but nobody really wants to get their head around that, seemingly. So they've done a deal with Shopify that allow you to make your TikTok ads directly through the Shopify UI. So it allows you to upload your video, to preview your ads on TikTok, to monetize them and to track them all through Shopify. So it's just interesting how they're making it super simple, and Shopify now essentially becoming the conduit to all of your shoppable needs. Yeah, so if that's you, if you're a business or a brand or a shop and you want to get into TikTok, maybe is a different way of doing it. So only in the US at the moment, so not in the UK or at least the rest of the world just yet. And finally, we have the Osiris Rex Probe. This is phenomenal. So this has made a 4-year journey, 200 million miles, to go all the way to an asteroid called Bennu, and Bennu is less than 500 meters across. So just let that sink in. It's taken 4 years to do 200 million miles to get to an asteroid that's less than a couple of football pitches. So What did it do? It got all the way there. It did a couple of, well, lots of orbits of it. It scanned every single part of the asteroid. It took lots of photos. It did a 3D scan. It did all sorts of things. And its final parting gift was to basically to go down to the surface, blow a little puff of nitrogen gas, scatter some rocks, and quickly suck them up into its little foot, its little sensor, little tub, and then all the way back to Earth. So that's exactly what it's doing right now. Apparently it's super successful. There's only one sort of tiny glitch, is apparently it was too successful that it grabbed too much stuff in its foot and couldn't get the lid closed, so some of it leaked out, but apparently that's okay. But we won't know until it comes back to Earth, another 4 years time, so September 2023, another 200 million miles to travel. So what's the point of this? Well, this asteroid contains some of the material from the start of the entire universe, so some of the oldest stuff we know about, so it'd be really interesting to grab some of that and see what the material was like at the building blocks of the universe. That's pretty much it. So I doubt NASA are watching this, but if you are, really well done. Loving your style. And that's it. Thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see you next week.